Hi folks, and welcome to D-Town TV, the weekly show for Nikon DSLR shooters. I'm Scott Kelby.
And I'm Matt Klaskowski, and we actually have our second show here. So last week we had the very first show, we got some incredible feedback from it, so thank you, and we're incorporating that feedback into this show already. Now, we got our first tip. I think you're up.
I have our first tip. Okay, so this is one of those things, it's a setting you make in the camera. And once you do this, you'll always want to use this because it's just great. Because one of the things we want to do is make sure that our images are sharp. So you hit the playback button in the back and you look at the image and you might go over here to the zoom, you might zoom a couple times in, check around, zoom a couple times out. But there's a setting where you can make it a one-click zoom in and zoom right back out. You can instantly check the sharpness and then zoom back out. Very, very simple and quick. Here's how you do it. We're using a D300. This technique works on the D300, the D200, the D3, the D3X, and the D700. So if you have any of those, you can do this trick. Let's go to the menu button on the back. We'll go to the custom settings menu. Scroll down here to controls, and then you're going to choose the multi-selector center button. That's the button you're going to wind up pushing to zoom in and out. All right, choose that, then go down to playback mode, because this is a feature that works when you're playing back. Then here you have four choices: thumbnails on or off, view histograms, zoom on or off. You want zoom on or off. And when you choose in, you get three magnifications: low magnification, medium, which is the one that I use. I think it gives you a nice crisp look, and then high magnification if you want to get really, really in tight. So
really close.
Really, really close. Choose the one you want and hit OK, and that's it. You're set. Next time you're out on location, take a shot, hit play, zoom in to see it nice and tight, and while you're zoomed in, you can also just move the multi-selector button if you want to move a little to the left or a little right. When you're done, press the center, it zooms you back out. Slightly different on the D200. So if you have a D200, you just go to the menu, of course, and they just changed a word. So you'll still go under the custom settings menu, you'll still go under controls, but you're just going to choose center button. Then once you choose that, you'll go to playback mode and you'll go to the zoom on and off, and the rest is pretty much the same. But that's one of those things where once you set it, you'll fall in love.
You're hooked, because it's probably one of the first things I do on any camera I get. I do it to other people's cameras because they don't know and they see it and they're like, oh, this is great. That's what you want to see.
Right.
You really just want to see things close up.
All right. Hey, we have got a very neat segment for you that Matt's going to do. Matt's going to take you on location and show you a very, very slick trick if you shoot HDR. HDR is really, really hot, and shooting HDR can be really, really simple with his tip, so we're going to take you out there right now.
All right, we are here in beautiful downtown Safety Harbor, Florida, and we've got a nice scene in front of us that actually lends very well to HDR photography, and that is we've got some boats in the harbor. It's actually, the water's very flat, so we're gonna have a lot of luck when it comes to HDR, and the sun is setting behind us. The problem is we can't capture all this with one image. Okay, so what we're gonna do is use auto exposure bracketing on our camera, and we're gonna have the camera do it for us. We're gonna combine it into an HDR. So the first thing is we need to turn on auto exposure bracketing. Now, what we do here is I'm gonna go onto the front side of the camera here. I'm gonna press the function button down and turn the command dial to the right. And I get choices between 3, 5, 7, or 9 frames, okay? I'm gonna choose 5. That gives me a good range to work with here, because what I'll get in the end is my base exposure, and then +1 and +2 overexposed, and then -1 stop and -2 stops underexposed. The camera does all that for me. I have it set to aperture priority, so each time I press the shutter, once, twice, 3, 4, 5, it is changing the shutter speed automatically for me. And that's the key here, is with HDR, you don't want to change the aperture, you only want to change the shutter speed. So that's your first tip, is to let the camera do the work for you. Don't go in there and try to manually change the exposure. The next tip, to take it even further, is to go onto the top of the camera, and I'm going to turn the dial to continuous shooting mode. What this is going to do is it now lets me just hold the shutter down, and it takes all 5 exposures for me. So I don't have to keep pressing the shutter, which could introduce some vibration into the camera. I just press and hold it down. It's only going to take 5 or whatever I set it to. Now, in the end, what's really cool about it is after you're done with all 5, it plays them back automatically for you on the screen. You don't have to scroll through each of the photos. All right, so that's our tips in the field when it comes to HDR. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to the set. I've got a video on D-Town TV that will show you how to combine these 5 exposures using Photomatics into an HDR image. So go to D-Town TV, you can watch that video. What we're gonna do back on the set is take the final image, bring it into Capture NX, and kind of finish it. Do all the little tweaks that we would normally do to our photos to our final HDR image. See you back at the set. All right, so we're back on the set, and I mentioned that on dtowntv.com there's gonna be a video on how I compiled all those photos into the HDR image using Photomatics Pro, okay? But now, if you watch that video, even if you didn't watch the video, one of the things that I mentioned is that I resist the urge to do any color adjustments or any contrast adjustments inside of Photomatics because the programs we have that we're going to use for post-processing anyway are so much better at it. So whether it's Capture NX or Photoshop or Lightroom, you get a lot more control. Okay? So as you look at your photo, your HDR photo, if you followed what I said, it's always going to look very, very dull. But we can fix that very easily. Here inside of Capture NX, down in the histogram panel area, I'm going to turn on double threshold. And as I move these sliders here, this is going to show me my black points. If I move the white slider, it's going to show me my white points. So it kind of gives me an idea of where I would want to click when I come up to the top here and I use the eyedroppers. I'm going to take the black control point, I'm going to drop it on what was a black point, right below the boat. I'm going to take the white one, do the same thing. I know there was an area right up here toward the top of the boat. We'll just click there. And then we do the same thing with the gray eyedropper. What we're going to do is click on something in the photo that is kind of a lighter medium color gray, and this is going to be right on top of the boat here. All right, and that takes care of the color. You'll notice before that, it had kind of a very cold feel to it, and now we've just warmed it up a little bit. So let's take a look at the results of our eyedroppers here. This is before any changes, and this is after. So we have a nice amount of contrast, and we've also worked with the color of the photo. Now I'm going to click on New Step. I'll show you one more little trick that I like to do inside of my HDR photos, and that's the sky. Because the sky is really one of the things I like the most about what HDR does. We can take our selection brush, just going to paint right up here very quickly inside of the sky. You would obviously do a much better job than me. But we're just going to paint right up here inside of the sky. And then I'm going to come down here, I'm going to select adjustment, I'm going to go to my light, let's choose contrast and brightness. I'm going to bring the contrast up, which is really going to enhance the clouds inside of the sky here. And then you can always hold down your Option key on Mac, Alt on PC, and you could take your adjustment brush and just erase it away from any areas where it started to maybe spill over into a little bit too much, especially right on the top of the boat here. Just like that. Okay, so take a look at this adjustment because this is kind of what really enhances the HDR effect, which is take a look at the clouds before and then take a look at the clouds after. So they have a lot more punch to them, a lot more contrast. It even enhances a lot of the details up there. Okay, so once you get your photo out of Photomatics into Capture NX, those are some of the first things that I'll do with them, especially for an HDR photo, because it really does help enhance the style of that photo. All right, well, got a quick break coming up here, and then right after that, we've got some more tips for you. See you in a minute.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, a little bit closer. Okay, that's it. Work a little bit to the side. Yep, there we go. That's it. Hold it.
Time for a close-up. Brad, need 2.5 2. Can I get that hair adjusted, please? All right, the hair's looking good. Looking good. All right.
That's it. Work the hair. Work the hair. Come on. That's it. Give it to me. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, work the hair. That. Oh, look at the eye. Give me that. Oh, there you go. Beautiful. Excellent. Hold that pose. There we go. Beautiful.
Well, hi everybody, we're back. And last week we got some really great feedback on our website, which by the way is dtowntv.com. And a lot of the feedback revolved around VR, vibration reduction, and how to fix your lenses and whatnot. And Scott's got some really good tips on using VR with your lenses.
I do. If you have a lens that has VR, and you'll know because your lens will say, well, VR right on the lens. All right,
Red.
It has vibration reduction, and what it's designed to do is to be able to let you shoot in lower light situations by reducing the vibration that you get when you're hand holding a shot. Well, that being said, I turn off vibration reduction when I'm shooting on a tripod. That's number one. But the second time is you want to turn it off when you're shooting like sporting events, when you're shooting at fast shutter speeds. So if you're shooting at 1/500th of a second or faster, that's when you want to go right here on the side of the lens, just flip the little switch that says VR on off, just switch it to off. Then you go back and shooting. And the reason why is because if you leave it on, you could have increased shutter lag, which isn't good, especially when you're shooting sports, and your frames could advance slower. So those are, in just those situations, high-speed shooting, you want to go ahead and turn those off. All right, now, there's also a couple of other things that you ought to know about. There's a setting on the camera, it says normal and then active. And actually, by the way, the lens that we're using here is the 18-200 lens. So this is the 18-200 f3.5 to f5.6 zoom lens, and it is a VR lens, and there is normal and active. You want to turn active on when when the surroundings around you are moving. So if you're in a helicopter and you're shooting an aerial shot, if you're on a boat, if you're on a ferry, if you're in a car trying to shoot something, that's when you want to switch your vibration to active. So you're going to leave it on normal most of the time. You're going to turn it off when I mentioned for high speed, but you're going to switch it to active if what you're on is moving, not what you're shooting is moving. Now, if you're using Nikon's really long glass like the 400mm f2.8, the 500 or 600mm f4, and you want to put those on a tripod because that's really, really big glass, there's actually a special brand of VR just for that. You'll find a switch on those that actually says tripod, and you turn it on in those situations. Now, just to recap real quickly, I leave VR on my camera or on my lens all the time, except for when I'm shooting on a tripod or when I'm shooting at those fast shutter speeds. I switch to active if I'm on a boat or a car or a helicopter, which is very rare.
And you switch it to tripod when, Scott?
I switch to tripod when I'm shooting my 400, 500, 600mm, and by the way, I have none of those. But if I did, that's when I would switch to tripod.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta say, it's a really cool tip. The one that kind of hit me was the sport shooting one. Because just common sense, for some reason, you think if I'm hand-holding, I want VR on all the time.
Yeah,
But
not the case,
not
especially
true.
at those high shutter speeds. You're better off to turn it off.
Yeah. Well, hey, folks, thanks for watching another show here. Make sure you stop by dtowntv.com and leave us some feedback about the show.
Also, check out Nikonians.org. It is a great worldwide community on the web of Nikon users from around the world. A really terrific place. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, go visit there real quick.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for watching D-Town TV. My name is Matt Kloskowski.
I'm Scott Kelby. We'll see you back here next week. Take care.
Mm-hmm.